Today I'm going to share with you how much it costs to do the Mount Everest Base Camp Trek. Now, I just completed the trek and I did it solo with no guide and no porter, but I did do some pretty extensive research on how much it would cost to go with a trekking company. So today I will go over both options. What this is not going to include is your international travel. It is not going to include your passport or passport renewals, immunizations or preventative medications such as anti-malaria pills, any kind of trekking or hiking gear, and any in-country medical or pharmacy expenses, which are actually pretty common. Okay, so you've gotten yourself to Kathmandu. You're within the country of Nepal. Here is where we're going to start calculating expenses. Before you take off on your trek, you're going to want to have a couple things taken care of. First, you want to arrange your flight. Yes, it is possible to take a flight from Kathmandu to Lukla. In the recent past, it wasn't. There was, I guess, a lot of construction. There was a problem with the airport, and it was an option for a while. It is an option now. So when I was researching for my trip in the middle of May, just a couple months ago, everything I was reading was just saying that you cannot fly, that you have to take a 6-hour bus, and presently that is no longer true, thankfully. So if you're running into those articles, don't worry, you can still fly. This video is not going to go into how exactly you do each of these things that go with the expense. We're just going to talk about just the expense. Okay, so you need to get a flight from Kathmandu to Lukla. Lukla is the official start of the Everest Base Camp Trek. For me, my round trip flight to and from Lukla from Kathmandu was $383. Oh, and these dollar amounts will mostly be in US dollars, so feel free to convert that to whatever currency you are using. You'll want to stay in Kathmandu for a few days. The recommendation is 2. I would suggest possibly more. I experienced altitude sickness pretty bad on my very first day. So the longer you can stay in Kathmandu, if you can do 3 days, that's great. 4 days, maybe even better. But you'll want to stay at least 2 nights in Kathmandu. So my hotel was really nice. I really enjoyed my hotel, and it was $24 a night. So that's $48 total. And then I also arranged medical insurance. I did not do a great job. I did it at the very last minute. I got a policy that ended up, they wouldn't honor my policy when I did get sick, and it was just a total waste of money. But I paid $25 for my medical insurance. Unless you're only going to do about half the trek and then turn around, which is a very popular option. There was a lot of people, surprisingly, that got about halfway up and then just went right back down. A cheap medical travel insurance will work, but if you plan to go all the way up, you're going to need a lot heftier policy, and those cost several $100s. I would say you'll need to spend at least $350 or so on a really good policy. However, I didn't actually buy one. I saw the $350 ones, and then I saw the $25 ones, and I went with the $25 one, but it did not work out to my benefit. But it looked like it was going to cover everything, and then they had a whole bunch of policy exclusions, and it did not. So those are the 3 things that you need to arrange before you actually get into Nepal. Okay, so those 3 things. Then you're going to want to get from your hotel in Kathmandu to the airport. So you're going to need a taxi or some kind of ride. So for me, that cost me $5. The taxis are really inexpensive. My hotel was about a 30, maybe 45-minute ride in the middle of the night at 4 in the morning, at 3 in the morning when there was no traffic. It was about 45 minutes, and it cost me only $5 with the tip. So transportation, super inexpensive. Okay, and then when I got to the airport, I got a SIM card. There is a couple ways to do this, and again, we're not going to go over the different methods, but it cost me $10, 10 US dollars, and I bought a plan that was good for 28 days, I want to say, and I was traveling to other countries from Nepal, and I was told that the SIM card would work, and it did not work. So you may not need the 30-day plan. You can get the 15-day plan or the 14-day plan for half of that. But I spent $10 and got a physical SIM card. Then you're going to need some money. You're going to want some local Nepalese money. Isn't it beautiful? Love their currency. It's very pretty. So you're going to need to go to the ATM, and the ATM fees, because the touristy area, is pretty hefty. So I ended up going to the ATM 3 times, and I paid about $25 in ATM fees. And that's a combination between what the ATM itself charged me and then what my bank charged me for using an ATM that wasn't their ATM. So a lot of fees. Okay, next you'll have your Nepal entry visa. You'll need to pay cash for this, and for me, for US citizens, it's 50 US dollars. And you get that presently. It is a visa on arrival, so you get it when you get there. Okay, here's where things get a little different. If you're going to trek solo, you'll need to purchase a trek card, and it's basically a card that allows you to go solo without a guide. And that is paid for in combination with the permits to get into the 2 different national parks there. So together they were 5,000 Nepalese rupees, and that is about 38 US dollars. Next is the meals. I will give you a quick breakdown, but I will say that for the meals, I didn't order anything fancy. My breakfasts were all very plain. They were mostly just oatmeal. My lunch was usually just a sandwich or some kind of rice or noodle. And then my dinner was pretty much the same as lunch. So I did not get anything fancy. You could get things that cost a whole lot more, pizzas and soft drinks and things, but I didn't do any of that. I stayed very simple with my meals, mostly because I did not feel well a good portion of the time, and the food, it wasn't the healthiest option. And when you don't feel good and then like you're just eating unhealthy food, it didn't do so good. There were a couple meals that were really delicious, that are very memorable, but for the most part, I kept it very, very plain with the food. So my breakfast, on average, it was 350 rupees per breakfast, and then times 8, so that's 21 US dollars for all of my trek breakfasts. Lunch averaged about 500 rupees per meal, and then times 8, that's 30 US dollars, and then my dinner was around 600 rupees per meal, which is $36 for the 8 days. As you get higher up in the mountain, meals get more expensive. Everything gets more expensive. Showers get more expensive. The internet gets more expensive. Right about just past the halfway mark, probably about day 6. And usually the trek up is about 8 days. So by about day 6, things start to get really expensive. And where I noticed the big difference was between like the lunches and dinners. Then the lower days. So on the lower days, my lunches and dinners cost maybe 250 or 300 rupees, and then all of a sudden there's just this huge jump where everything doubles. But everything has to travel a whole lot higher up the mountain, and it's just a lot harder. It takes more resources to get up there. So this is just an average of what it cost me between all 8 days, as an average. Okay, next is the lodging. The tea houses. I paid for mine in advance. I found a company that will book the tea houses for you in advance. So I did mine at the beginning of January is when I did my reservation, and I didn't actually leave until the middle of May. So I booked my entire vacation, or my entire trek, months in advance. I knew I was gonna probably overpay for the tea houses, but for me, because I was going alone and I've never done it before, and I was really nervous about the trip itself, I decided to just go ahead and pay extra to overpay for that security to know where I was gonna sleep. So I paid $81. And I know that might sound inexpensive. That's less than what we would pay here in America for just one night in a not so nice hotel. But it was $81 for 7 nights. And actually it was $81 for 8 nights, but I didn't end up taking the last night, so I ended up forfeiting that money. Generally the tea houses cost about $2.50 in American, so about 350 rupees per night. When you get higher, it does get $1 or $2 more expensive, but for the most part, your tea houses will be the least expensive thing of the entire trek. Where the tea houses make their money is through the food and the drinks and selling hot water and showers and electricity, and it's like all the add-ons. But the rooms themselves, $2.50 American a night for the tea house. Now, you're not going to get luxury. But that's what the accommodation is, and it's very inexpensive. I paid for internet one night, because I did not realize that my SIM card was going to work at the top of the mountain, and it actually did. And then before I even checked it, I had paid for internet, and I paid $2 for the one night of internet, and it was unlimited internet. And then I paid for a shower one time, and it was $5 US. And most of my showers came included with the tea house or my prepayment. When I prepaid, I had just paid extra to have a shower with some of the rooms. So the shower one night, $5. Credit card fees. I did put some items on my credit card, and I have a credit card that doesn't charge any international transaction fees, so that saved me a lot of money right there. But if you use a credit card in Nepal, most of the places will charge you a transaction fee on their end, and then they'll also increase the exchange rate, so you're kind of double paying a penalty. So in total, I paid about $35 in credit card fees for my normal expenses. And I did this because I was carrying cash, and I was paying for everything just in cash, and I was really scared the whole time. I was really scared about running out of money, but I was equally afraid of losing my money or losing, like I had it like buried in a fanny pack at the very bottom of my pack, and I was worried that I would pull it out to pay for something and set it down somewhere and lose it. I don't know, like I was just I was very scared to get stranded up in the middle of the mountains by myself with absolutely no money, and then I'm like, oh my gosh, I'm gonna starve and I'm gonna freeze. And so money to me, like I was trying to save my cash wherever possible. Like I'd rather get to the top and come back down with a ton of cash than to not make it all the way up and then run out of money. So to me, it was worth it to put some things on my card where it was allowed. So I did use my credit card, and I'm only counting half the fees because I think in total I paid about $85 in credit card fees, but there were some expenses like when I rented the horse that are just not normal expenses that you probably wouldn't pay. So I'm not counting that in this because it's an expense that may not be something that you're going to consider. If you wanted to rent a horse and you put it on your credit card, you're probably going to pay about $50 in fees to do that through your credit card. Okay, and then I think that's everything. Yeah, my international flight. Again, this doesn't include the international flight in the price that I'm going to give you, but if you're interested in knowing how much I paid for my international flight, I flew from Washington, D.C., from Washington Dulles to Kathmandu. I got the fastest flight I could find, and it was just over, I think, 24 and a half hours each way. And it was, my airfare was about $1,300 US. And then I did change my flight one time and then had to pay a $214 change fee, which really was a bummer. So that is my airfare. So everything that I paid, all the numbers that we just went over, all of that together comes out to a grand total of $794. And again, that is for my flight to Lukla, 2 nights in a hotel in Kathmandu, very bad medical insurance, a taxi to the airport, a SIM card, ATM fees, Nepal entry visa, a truck card, and national park entry permits. There are 2 of those. 8 days worth of meals, 8 days worth of lodging in the Teahouses, 1 night of internet, 1 hot shower, and credit card fees. All of that was $794 US. Again, I would encourage you, if you're planning to go, to purchase a really substantial medical insurance policy, if not a medical and a travel insurance policy. Because I got sick, I did change my plans and I missed my next flight that I had immediately leaving Nepal. I missed that because I was sick, and I did not get a reimbursement for any of it. So on top of that $794, I was just adding a couple $100 on for medical insurance. So I think reasonably it should cost around maybe $1,100 for you to go if you wanted to go solo. Again, this does not consider the cost of gear, and the gear is quite expensive, especially if you're going to go with no porter and you're going to carry everything on your own back and you need to invest in things that are really light. Light stuff is expensive. So gear costs a lot. So this figure does not include gear, or again, the international travel, which was probably the bulk of the expense. It was just international travel. Okay, so if you don't want to go solo, you can go through a trekking company. There are millions of them. They can do anything from helping to arrange your flight to and from Lukla. They'll book all your tea houses for you. They can get you your hotel in Kathmandu before and after. They can pretty much arrange just about anything you need. They can help you with, and they do charge you for it, of course, but they're providing you a service. So that's to be expected. From the research I did, if you go with a trekking company and you get the bare minimum, if you get a guide that you're going to share between several other travelers, so you're all going to go together, you're going to sleep together, eat together, take breaks together, you're going to be in a line going up the mountain all together the whole entire time. It costs somewhere between $1,500 and $2,500 from my research, and that usually does include 1 porter per every couple people. You can go without a porter, and you can get your own guide that is just private to you if you don't want to go in a group, and the price for that will vary. But those were options that I was really considering, just because it does cost substantially more to get a private guide. And then to me, I felt like if I was going to pay for a guide and then pay for them to book the tea houses, like when you go with the guide, they do expect that they're going to get to make all your accommodations and do everything for you. So, and again, you have to pay them for all that. So for me, I like doing things on my own. And I didn't want to just show up and just be told where to go and what to do and when to do it. So those were services that I just didn't want. But if you go with a guide, they will take care of everything. And most of the time, their package price that they'll give you, the one price they quote you will include pretty much everything. It will include your shared guide, your shared porter, your tea houses each night, typically a breakfast and a dinner. And then again, the packages can just go up from there. You can get nicer lodging, you can throw in showers, you can throw in electricity, you can spend as much as you'd like to spend. They're happy to take your money. But the low end is about $1,500. I don't think I found any packages for less than $1,500. And then they went up to about $2,500 with adding only reasonable things on. So nothing extravagant. So I think that's it. Let me know if you have any questions. So again, for me, I paid $794 $94, or you can go with the trekking company for between $1,500 and $2,500. And I will say that this only includes the 8 days it took me to get up the mountain. Most people will hike down and it takes about 4 days to hike back down. So if that's your plan and you're going to trek for 12 days instead of 8, you will probably add about 50% of this back in, or at least 50% of the tea house and your food and maybe more ATM expenses. So just keep that in mind. So this is 8 days, an 8-day trek up the mountain. This is how much it cost me to get up to reach the summit of Everest Base Camp. It cost me $794, which I think was a pretty good bargain. Don't forget your rupees. Gonna need these. It's raining rupees. Okay, that's it.